It's hard. It's really hard. That's uncomfortable. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So, I was able to get my hands on the Trijicon ACOG that Dimitri from Primary Arms was able to dabble with as far as the reticle and that kind of stuff. And this is one of his more successful iterations of that that's going all over the place now. And a couple of you may have seen a couple of reviews on it, seeing as you're looking up this one. But this is the ACSS Aurora Reticle. Now, this to me is, as far as a 4-power ACOG is concerned, probably what should be the poster child from here going forward. Because to me, it is everything that the ACOG was supposed to be from the word go. Now, far as that's concerned, the reticle itself, it has a standard, for instance, TA34 reticle in there, but with a lot of little additions that really, really do help. Now, you can see from the image, okay, you have via the meter system versus moon landing units, which is what most military units go by anyhow. You end up from 1 all the way out to 800 meters, and you can actually see this in several different locations on the reticle itself. You both get a ballistic drop compensator, a left to right ranging tool for 18 inches across, which, you know, according to military manual and that kind of stuff, is the average adult or average military age male from shoulder to shoulder. And you also see some horizontal lines that are really for not just mile per hour, because we'll get into that here later, but that is included. But you also have full measurement of a 5'10" male at those ranges between 4 to 800, and you also have half body measurements, which would mean from, you know, head to waist. So that in and of itself already enhances this significantly. But what you also have underneath in the ballistic drop compensator area of the reticle, you also have 5 and 10 mile an hour winds, and these are for full value winds, meaning, you know, a perfect left to right versus half or quarter value winds and that kind of stuff, which you could get into and extrapolate a bunch of stuff based off of what you get. But the dots on the left and right of the 18-inch measurement of the ballistic drop compensator reticle, that's for your 5 and 10 mile an hour winds. The cool thing about this also is that to the direct left and right of the chevron on this, you see 2 large solid dots on that reticle, and that's for an 8.6 mile an hour lead on that particular target within those closer ranges, which is an average dude carrying a rifle in a sprint. You also have compensation based off of the horizontal measurement lines based off of, you know, 20, 25, and 30 mile an hour, which, you know, average startup car speeds and that kind of stuff. So, you know, because people run, people drive away, that kind of stuff. So the ability to do that greatly enhances what you already have, which you already had a couple of good capabilities to start with the older models of the like the RCO reticle and that kind of thing. So, and that really is where first shot misses come from in the first place, is improper measurement of individual person and improper wind measurements. That's usually what drops a shot and that kind of stuff. You know, improper extrapolation, because a lot of times you have imperfect measurements that you're getting based off your reticle, especially the older 18-inch across measurement, because people stand bladed to you. So you can get a lot based off of that, because now you can get a dude that more or less has his back to you or front to you, and if he's bladed to you, you can get measurement of both the dude standing up sitting down, whatever. So now there's tons of extra stuff that you can pull based off of that, and you can use what you really need based off of the individual dope that you have, the wind measurements that you're currently taking, provided they're accurate, and it really does enhance a lot of the speed at which you're able to take those measurements and place an accurate shot, which was the emphasis of the reticle in the first place, and I'm very, very happy with that. Now, a bunch of things that this carries over from the venerable ACOG type design is you still have the little wings on here, so you have the capability to mount an RMR to it. It's still fiber optic cable and tritium illuminated, and guys that are experienced with using ACOGs and that kind of stuff are familiar with different sources of tape. This one has some friction tape on it, so that you can dial back how bright that reticle is based off of how you perceive that reticle and whether or not it's a little obnoxious to you. My eyes tend to be a little more sensitive to light, so I tend to dial back the brightness of the fiber optic cable significantly, so that it's not basically overpowering my eyeballs, especially if I'm trying to take a more precise shot at those particular distances, because 1, 2, and 3 is a more common thing, and of course, if we're dealing with non-compliant combatants and that kind of stuff, they're not going to stand straight up and ask you to shoot them. They're probably going to have very little exposed. So dialing back on that brightness is usually my thing. And when you have failing light conditions or heavily overcasted dust type conditions and that kind of stuff, you see the tritium start to take over as far as the illumination and that kind of stuff. So it still carries that over from previous designs. This standard mount still ships with this, although this has an American Defense mount, which allows you to pull back the base of the optic significantly further back. The reason for this is because, like older ACOGs, this one is no real different in the fact that it's got very short eye relief also. However, similar to, again, just about every other ACOG out there in the 4-power package, while you have short eye relief, you still have very, very gracious field of view. So that is still really nice, and on top of this, it still retains, Trijicon glass clarity for the ACOG, which has always been phenomenal, especially in this kind of package. So you still retain a lot of really good stuff and a lot of really good features. The turrets up top are still 1/4 minute, which is really good. And in addition to this is one of the few things that I would suggest, anything that has a solid reticle in it. This is one of those things where I would absolutely advocate that when you get this, you open the instruction manual that it comes with, and you look at the different zeroing points that it's going to ask you to do based on the particular barrel length that you have, because there are varying different barrel lengths that you could start up with on this. Now, of course, the scopes themselves, there are different versions of the particular ACOGs that are out there. There's a 20-inch rifle version, there's a carbine version, there's something that's sort of kind of in the middle, which is based off of like your 16-inch barrel guys, and and that kind of thing, right? This happens to be your middle-of-the-road kind of deal. And again, just because it was tailor-made for that particular barrel length doesn't mean that you can't zero it in a particular way to make it work with the ammo that you're using. So I highly, highly, highly suggest that you crack open a manual on this thing and check out, based on the barrel length that you have, where you should be zeroing this specifically, so that all the dope that you're collecting, especially with regards to the BDC and whatnot, is accurate. Especially if you're going to use different ammo types and that kind of thing. So data collection is huge, and it should be a big concern for anybody that's picking this kind of stuff up. Point of fact, the cool thing about this is, because of the enhanced measurements that you can take on individuals, because you don't just have left to right, you can also do the vertical measurements, and you can do a couple of pre-leads based off of what you see, off of current wind values and that kind of stuff, especially if they're fairly consistent throughout the day. What is kind of cool with this is that before we were able to make range cards with the standard RCO reticle. Now you can make far more effective range cards based off of particular measurements of different objects, especially objects that are similar size to adult males and that kind of thing. And it ain't really hard to figure out what you could use for that. This really just kind of helps out with a lot of those things, because another role that these typically play, for guys that don't have extra or better equipment, is that rando SDM that's on the ground that's got one of these. You could use this for observation and data gathering all day long. So very, in my personal opinion, the package that, the battle-proven ACOG type design already has with this reticle is its very, very best version. So going over everything that I just said, and if you would pause that, this video on that reticle and really take in how much extra information that you get based off of this, it's hard to beat as far as a tight, light package that you can walk around with and do quite a bit of work with. Now, of course, the downside of this is that it's a fixed 4-power, so if you want to straddle up an RMR up top, you absolutely can. If you don't have the capability for extra mounts and that kind of stuff, my personal opinion would be to do an offset, either a 45 degree, or you could go with what T-Rex Arms has put out, which is slightly less canting mount for Trijicon RMRs and that kind of stuff, if you want your close range ops and that kind of thing. Because yes, the bend-in aiming concept does exist, and you can do close range work with this. That's significantly more difficult to master than rotating the gun a little bit and just going to a dot that's offset. So, pick your poison on that front. But to me personally, there's not much more to say. I've done reviews on ACOGs before. I have one that's fairly long that I go into far more detail with as far as usage and all that other stuff with ACOGs in general. This, with the updated reticle that's in it, to me, is, you can't really ask for much more in the package that it's offering. Absolutely bomb-proof, accurate turrets, good glass, great field of view, and a reticle that you can gather just tons of information on fast. To me, I mean, damn, Dimitri's really outdone himself on this particular optic, and far as the package goes, I can't really ask for much more until he decides to blow our minds with something else. So, that's all I have on this, guys. If you want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. We have a ton of new classes that were added to the schedule, so you can check those out. Link in the description below. You can do the same thing with the Facebook page. If you want a patch from us, I got links for that in the description below. If you want to support us through Patreon or use us to help you out as far as paying $41 a month to come out and train with us as much as you want to instead of paying full price, links for all of that are in the description below. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.